Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Institutional Teaching Excellence Awards at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. My name is Udumeleng Ramatlu, and it is quite an honor to be made part of such a noteworthy initiative here in the institution. For those who do not know me and those who wish to put a face to the name, I am from the Faculty of Education, and it is a faculty I so love with all my heart, and that is where I find my roots. Forget you not that we are all here not by chance or by accident, but actually as espoused by Focus Area 4 of Vision 2030, which speaks of smart human capital and talent. Now, without delving too much into the narrative of this particular focus area, I just wish to say that, Vision 2030 offers the institution a moral campus. This campus speaks of the direction and the speed which the institution should take at all times. And such an initiative is a fitting response in our approach to Vision 2030. Now, as my personal support to Vision 2030, I will not neglect to mention one particular disclaimer that our very capable program director could not make it today. And it was a last gasp attempt when I was asked to actually come and stand in front of you today. And of course, Vision 2030 speaks also subliminally of people not dropping the baton, because we have dedicated staff with dedicated knowledge, which is why we are here to honor all of you today. So just a light note, this colleague called me, and to provide a bit of context, I am officially on leave, and I had come back from visiting my parents in Johannesburg, and it's an 18-hour drive, and I arrived in the early hours of this morning. And, he asked me, hi, Mr. Ramatlo, how are you? And I mentioned, I'm fine, thanks, I'm officially on leave, well deserved. And at this point, I don't think I want to do any work, and he says, oh, by the way, I said, wait, hang on. I drove just yesterday, I arrived early hours of this morning. I'm extremely exhausted. And he says, okay, it's fine, but listen, I need to ask you something in light of the entire narrative I had provided. But of course, I said yes, and here we are today. So I must mention this in case my presentation may be staggering at some point, but also so I can build equity with the university's executive management. I will give you a few housekeeping rules, first of which is not listed here. And Nancy Klein speaks of the 10 components of a listening environment. And one of them is listening to ignite. So it will be very important that as our delegates are awarded and honored today, that we give the proceedings the respect and the dignity that it deserves. Now, the bathrooms will be both to the right or to the left of either point in the venue where you are sitting, well, on my right and on my left, which would be your opposite. And there is a photo booth, and I think I will make announcements around that later. But of course, you can see up front, this is where the certification will be taking place. And I know our colleague from MCD will also come up front to do a small demonstration around the proceeding as it would take place at graduation. I have not slept. So, yes, and there is no cash bar. We are, of course, at the hotel school, and we expect everything stellar. And yes, vegetarian. Now we're coming to dietary requirements. a part of Vision 2030 is us creating a future which has left no one behind. So if there are any Muslim people in here with us, I know we have quite a few identified. If you can just lift, they were supposed to raise their hands, and then our colleagues from the hotel school would identify you and provide you with a sticker, but I think we can also get to that a bit later. Now, I am very excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to having a great time with all of you. And I'm sure Dr. Powell, our DVC research, is just as enthused. I'll call upon Dr. Powell to come and welcome all of our guests. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, Professor Balkaran, Professor Klute, the Deans of Faculties present. I know I'm short, but I'm not that loud. Is there a problem with the microphone? Okay, thanks. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen and honorees tonight, I have the immeasurable privilege to welcome you to the CPUT Institutional Teachers Excellence Awards for 2023. You know, Dr. Cupido, I was just wondering if the timing of our institutional award ceremonies is deliberately aligned with Hollywood award seasons, because if that's the case, then going forward, then there should be a requirement that all attendees have to put on tuxedos and gowns by Versace, Louis Vuitton, and all the courtiers whose merchandise, unfortunately, all of us have to work about 5 years just to rent them for an evening. But I think, having said that, I think this is a great privilege for us to be here again, recognizing excellence. I'm also excited this evening, ladies and gentlemen, that we have in our midst as a keynote speaker, a trailblazer, a mentor, thought leader, and someone who has made an immense contribution to this country in terms of teaching, research, and innovation. His life's work embodies the ideals of a dedicated scholar and a patriot whose faith in his homeland has never withered, notwithstanding the challenges we face on any given day. I've had the privilege of working and interacting with Prof. Klute and learning from him over the past few years under his leadership at EDHE, and I have no doubt he will deliver a steering keynote address for us today. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we are gathered today, again, to pay homage to colleagues who have gone above and beyond the call of duty for this institution in their teaching endeavors. They have opted to pursue excellence in all its endeavors, in an environment and society that is not always easy, to say the least, where there's a predilection to reward mediocrity, beggars belief, and is fast becoming a national pastime to reward those who are basically taking us back. Program Director, I'm getting long in the tooth, but one of the privileges which come with getting old is that you develop an unconquerable aversion to mediocrity and nonsense. The distinguished literary critic and Yale Professor of Humanities, Harold Bloom, rightly remarked that as he was facing 70, I'm not that yet, but as he was approaching 70 and the ever approaching appointment with his mortality, that one doesn't want to read badly any more than live badly, since time will not relent. He said that he doesn't know that we owe God or nature a death, but nature will collect anyway. But he also added that we certainly owe mediocrity nothing. Whatever collectivity it purports to advance or at least represent, we must always strive for and celebrate excellence in all its manifestations. But we, at least in the context of South Africa, are living in mediocre times, where the public behavior and utterances of leaders in public and private institutions stretch incredulity to its limits. The rot, unless you have been asleep at the wheel for the past few months, has unfortunately not left some of our venerable institutions of higher learning unscathed. This then makes tonight's proceedings even more important. In recognizing the singular achievements of teachers at this institution under the astute leadership of Professor Balkaran, the deans and directors of centers and institutes, we reaffirm our abiding commitment to a dictum that has been central to human progress since through the ages, that excellence matters, that craft matters, that rigor matters. Our academic stars, notwithstanding the seemingly insurmountable challenges that confront us as a sector, have achieved and exceeded their academic goals and aspirations, and today they are first among equals. As we celebrate teachers, it is worth noting an interesting fact. Of all modern American presidents, all of them except one were, and unfortunately we must say, men of privilege, wealth, or graduates of America's elite universities like Harvard and Yale. Most are lawyers, including Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Some of them are MBAs, even George W. has an MBA. Engineers and so forth. The outlier in this case is Lyndon B. Johnson, the 36th president of the United States from 1963 to 1969. He got into power by mistake after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Ironically, he more than any other American president managed to pass into law during his presidency the most consequential pieces of legislation in US history. Among them are the Landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, awarding the opportunity to African Americans who have been excluded from the electoral process since slavery. In terms of qualifications, he is a graduate of the Southwest Texas State Teachers College, making him the only teacher to occupy the White House. Let us hear it for teachers. Program director, in conclusion, I have always thought in my never-ending, lifelong admiration for those who chose teaching as their vocation that on any given morning, midday, afternoon, or evening, in a classroom or lecture, hall filled with minds that are eager to learn, a teacher achieves a certain fulfillment and self-worth that will be with him or her to their dying day. In a small way, they feel, and rightly so, they are contributing to making our species better. Just like parents achieving immortality through their children, at least most of their children. They achieve theirs through teaching their students. Today's honorees should stand tall for being a credit to their profession. Welcome to all honored guests, and here to a glorious evening of celebrations to recognizing teaching excellence. Thank you, Enkosi Bayadangi Tamesenir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Powell. I think you have echoed quite a number of things that I advocate for. I'm very passionate about education, but I'm also a teacher at heart, and I've lectured part-time. And you know, if the wheels could be turned, I'd go back and study teaching, because I understand how teaching changes lives. And I'm going to put it very simply, that teachers will not carve your desired reality. What they will give you is a fighting chance. It's the same as education, so you're doing something very excellent. I will now move on. I will ask Professor Balkaran. Prof. Balkaran is our DVC for now learning and teaching, and I would like for him to come over to the podium and introduce himself and give a few opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramatlo, our program director, and thank you for stepping in. Couldn't have been an easy task, but we appreciate your contribution. It's often very difficult to do the opening remarks when you are between a guest speaker, a keynote address, and a welcome, because you wonder, what does an opening remark mean? So let me start by saying thank you, firstly, to everyone for coming, and most importantly to Dr. Cupido, who's done such a sterling job, our director of Fundani, for making this evening a success. So let's give her a round of applause. So that's part of my vote of thanks, but also just to also congratulate all of the nominees and recipients who will receive their awards tonight, the Teaching and Learning Excellence or Learning and Teaching Excellence Awards. I think it's a symbol of quality. And this whole event is a symbol of quality. And when I say symbol of quality, it's a symbol of quality in various aspects, in the way in which the recipients deliver their lectures, in the way in which they empathize with our students, of course, in the way in which they conduct their activities within the university. And often you find that the people of this caliber stand out from others, especially when they deliver it with the unique sense of excellence. So I think the first part is the kind of rigor that Dr. Powers spoke about, the kind of rigor around which we selected the candidates is based on the national framework for enhancing teachers, for enhancing academics as university teachers. So that national framework, for many of you who would be familiar with, set out various criteria. It's based on professionalism, student success. It's based on the lecturer's ability to contribute towards the department and faculty. It's about the scholarship. So there are a number of criteria around how we select these candidates, and it's set against a national backdrop. And of course, we will be seeing much of that soon around the rollout of those elements within the national framework soon. And I'm quite happy to acknowledge the fact that we are using that as a benchmark or as a means to evaluate our recipients. So that's really a huge accomplishment for us all at CPUT. I think one of the areas around foregrounding learning before teaching is just our focus on the fact that student centricity and the fact that we place student at the center of all that we do, and the fact that we have the ability to understand that it is a learning experience for both the lecturer and the student. And of course, shifting the balance of power from the lecturer to the student is not an easy thing. It is not an easy thing to be able to acknowledge that you have a lot to learn when you are with our students. It is not easy. It's very easy to come in as an authority, throw a book at our students, get them to take notes, and regurgitate that in an exam. However, to be able to actually use their experiences in the learning process is quite insightful. So I think it's something that we place very high on our agenda, that learning is foregrounded, and hence we've changed our teaching and learning policies, our nomenclature in a number of committees, etc., to reflect learning as the prime area of focus insofar as our objectives are concerned. I was talking to our guest speaker yesterday at our Czech meeting, Professor Kluti, and one of the things we were discussing is the enhancement of our postgraduate diploma that the three universities at Czech share. And a number of ideas came about in terms of us co-badging that particular qualification, in terms of making that qualification the kind of flagship nationally. And I think we have that potential to be able to offer it in that particular way, as there is no other grouping such as ours that exists within the country that's working so hard on that. And of course, we require our best colleagues, our best staff members, our best lecturers and teachers to be involved in the program in order to make it a flagship program. And of course, all programs within CPUT, and particularly the recipients of the awards today, I really look forward to engaging with you in making your program, not necessarily your modules, but the program in which you belong to increase that to an extent where it becomes a flagship program, not only at CPUT, but within the whole national framework. So I want to wish you well, colleagues. I want to acknowledge the deans, the DVC, RTIP, thank you very much. I want to acknowledge the recipients, assistant deans, our teaching and learning coordinators, and of course all the other colleagues from CPUT. Thank you so much for making this evening a success, and I hope we'll have some time to mingle over a period of time this evening. We'll enjoy the music, and all the best once again to our recipients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Balkaran. So when you mentioned, when you extend your greetings to all others, That would include me, because I think I'm the only administrator here. But I am here on behalf of all the administrators at CPUT. Thank you very much for those words, and I think it's also reaffirming to all the awardees that will be acknowledged today that rigor was applied in the selection process leading up to the conferral of this honor that is about to take place. And I think you find yourselves at a very interesting time. Professor Balkaran did present his learning and teaching strategy at ISPC. And you know, it spoke to me also about democratizing the consumption experience of education so that it is accessible, it is understandable, and also that it is transformational. And you are going to be right at the forefront of this very huge paradigm shift that we're going to find ourselves in, also with the Industrial Revolution, which will always impact long-term value creation. Thank you very much, Professor Balkaran. Now we will steam right ahead, and Professor Klute taking one last deep breath, we will be moving over to you as our keynote speaker for today's auspicious occasion. But just before you come up front, I will just share a short biography of who Professor Eugene Klute is. So, Professor Eugene Klute is CEO of Cape Higher Education Consortium, the CHEC. A microbiologist and water expert, Prof. Klute has been the DVC for Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Studies at Stellenbosch University for the past 10 years. During his tenure as DVC, Stellenbosch University became internationally recognized as a leading research-intensive university. Before taking up this position in September 2012, Prof. Klute served as the Dean of the Faculty of Science at Stellenbosch University. He is a board member of ASAF and CEO of the Cape Higher Education Consortium. He has promoted more than 100 MSc and PhD students, authored 5 books, holds 10 patents, and has more than 186 scientific publications to his credit. He has received many awards, including the Academy of Science of South Africa Gold Medal and the NSTF South 33 Award for Research Leading to Innovation. He is married to Heloise and has 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Prof. Eugene Klute.
Well, thank you very much, Program Director, Professor Pau, Dr. Pau, Professor Balkaran, the Deans of the faculties and colleagues. What a great pleasure for me to be here this evening to share with you a few ideas. I've been an academic for all of my life after school. I spent a few years in industry, but really enjoyed being an academic. And the title of my talk could be twofold this evening. It could be the intelligence trap, or it could be achieving the extraordinary with ordinary people. Now, and I'm going to share some experiences that I have, and I'm going to be a bit provocative also in terms of how I think we should be going into the future as far as learning and teaching is concerned. So during my career, I realized that we are all born with the same amount of genius than a Leonardo da Vinci or an Albert Einstein. And you might be sitting there and asking yourself, okay, so what went wrong? Now, a lot of things actually go wrong. And part of what goes wrong is what other people expect of us. I remember very well in my first year chemistry lecture, we pitched up and the professor came into the lecture theatre, greeted all of us, pointed down the middle and said, half of you are not going to be here again next year. And I was very happy that I was not sitting in that half. But then he pointed to the other half and he said, and half of you will be here again next year. And I was wondering, what was he trying to say? I thought perhaps he was bragging because he was already a professor. I'm a first-year student, battling to find my classes and my program and so on. But this is not what I heard him say. I actually heard him admit in public in front of 300 witnesses that he was incapable or too stupid to teach us. Surely it was his problem if we were going to fail, and not mine. Why would he allow me into the university in the first place? So the expectations we create for ourselves and the expectations that we have for other people are really important in unlocking the potential in people, that genius in people. Later on, I was at the University of Pretoria and I became the chair of the School of Biology, and guess who was reporting to me there? This very same professor of mine. I must admit it was quite a nice day in my life. But I could help him to change his narrative. And I said what he should have told the students, and I've done this to thousands of students, is tell them, get to know the people that are sitting in front of you, behind you, next to you. Those are significant people. Those are the professors and the leaders and the engineers and doctors and teachers of the future. So get to know them. Because my experience is when you create a positive expectation and support people, they won't let you down. If you create a negative expectation, they will also not let you down. They will live up to that negative expectation. So we need to be very careful in terms of how we speak to our colleagues and how we speak to our students to really unlock that potential, to make them believe in themselves. I also learned that we have at least 10 different intelligences. And we measure only 1 or 2 at school, and we measure only 1 or 2 at university, and our systems basically dummify brilliant people. I'm going to give you some examples. But let me start off with 1 or 2 of these intelligences. The one is knowledge. You have spent most of your lifetime up until now to gather just more knowledge. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Knowledge is really important. Now, ChatGPT has arrived on the scene, as all of you would know, and there's also Tome. Fantastic programs and artificial intelligence that can help us. But just imagine being on an operating theater undergoing open heart surgery, and the surgeon has to ask ChatGPT, what is the next step? It's a life-threatening situation. Or you're in an airplane, and it's on the runway, it's going at 300 kilometers an hour, and the pilot is there, you know. What do I do next? So that knowledge that we have is really important, and this is what we do. It's how we make sure our students actually learn. That's the challenge. Because we often get students, many students, at most universities around the world, that get a degree, but that would hardly pass any of their undergraduate exams if they had to rewrite those exams. I want to say something about this information that we gather and the knowledge that we gather. There's a caveat to this. It is important. But did you know that the more you know about a particular subject, the more difficult it becomes for you to solve a problem in that particular subject? Einstein said you can't get yourself out of a problem with the same mind that got you into the problem. And what he meant was this, and we are all guilty. We will always approach the solution to a problem from within the knowledge that we already have. Imagine you walk into this big castle, Anthony's dead on the floor, Cleopatra's asleep on the couch, next to Anthony is a container that had a liquid in, and that's empty. Now, if we had time, we could play the game where you ask me questions on which I can only answer yes or no to figure out what happened there. And I've done this with many, many students. And they all think the same without even talking to one another. They think Cleopatra murdered Anthony, there was poison in the liquid and so forth. But what happened there is that Anthony is a little goldfish and Cleopatra is a cat. And someone bumped over the bowl and he just suffocated. But our prior knowledge and immediate association with Shakespeare and the names of people and so forth influences the process in how we solve that problem. So we need to get out of that. And how do we get out of that? We get out of that through creative thinking. Now, we don't teach creative thinking at university. We don't teach it at school. It should, in my mind, be a compulsory subject, in fact, at school. Even clever people don't think. Evil people, that, well, in a way, it's good, because there's a huge amount of reserve thinking capacity in the world, and we are going to need that as we move into the future, because more people will be forced to think. I'll give you just one example. You would have noticed that the keyboard on your computer is not alphabetical. Now, one very powerful way of stimulating creative thought is to ask the question why. Nothing in the world will survive the question why 5 times in a row. And I wonder how many of you know why it is not alphabetical. But let me tell you, Christopher Sholes in 1876 designed the keyboard using the English language and letter pairing to slow down typing because they were jamming the hammers on a mechanical typewriter. They've never changed that. Electricity came, Apple, Microsoft, Windows. I think it's an insult to human intelligence. I would have preferred, by the way, an alphabetical keyboard because I learned to type the Columbus method. I don't know if you know the Columbus method. It's like seek and land, seek and land. At least I would have known where the A is and where the Z is, and I would have typed quickly. So I learned the hard way. I now more or less know where the letters are after many years. So another good example is to, if you run a Windows computer, how do you actually switch it off? You go to start to shut it down. Now, how many things do you start to shut down in this world? What does it tell you? That people are not thinking. They're not questioning. So that question why is extremely important. And there are many other techniques, but why is powerful in terms of unlocking human potential. Then we have analytical intelligence. This is what we do with what we know, the skills that we learn, and so forth. But I want to stand still at one intelligence and spend a few minutes on that, which I think is the intelligence that unlocks the other intelligences. It is the driver of intelligence, and that is emotional intelligence. And there are many good books on emotional intelligence. The short version, for me, is that we need to realize that all of us in this room and every other person has an emotional bank balance. And every time that you interact with another person, you are either making a withdrawal out of that emotional bank balance or you are making a deposit. So if you are constantly negative, unfriendly, hypercritical, if you don't acknowledge other people, and so on, you bankrupt them emotionally. And you might know people like that. They tire you within 1 minute of being in their presence. They are high-maintenance people. I tend to avoid them if I see them park in the parking lot before I get out of my car. So I give them a head start, because they will tire me before the day starts, actually. But unlocking potential, human potential, is about acknowledging other people, being friendly, being kind, being respectful. And acknowledging, I want to speak about that for a second. The biggest need that we have as humans, and our students have, is to be acknowledged. Hertzberg will tell you this, and Maslow will tell you this, and other big names. So acknowledgement is extremely important. Do not be afraid to acknowledge other people. We are here tonight to celebrate your absolute excellence, and I congratulate all of you that will receive a certificate this evening, because it is acknowledgement. I also want to congratulate the senior management of CPUT for doing this. This is the right thing to do. Now, because we don't acknowledge easy in South Africa, well, there's the story about this overseas visitor. They were walking here on the West Coast, and there was a drum of crayfish. It was overfull. And he made the remark, he said, isn't this interesting that none of these crayfish are falling out of this drum? So the South African host says, no, this is not a problem. These are South African crayfish. As soon as the one gets to the top, the other crayfish will pull it down to the bottom. Now, because we don't acknowledge each other, we have a South African invention called self-acknowledgement, and it works like this, at least in my generation and many of you around the room here. When we greet one another, you must listen carefully what people say. They'll say, hello, how are you? And the answer will be, no, I'm fine, thank you. But man, I am busy. Why would you want to tell someone else that you are busy? You're basically acknowledging yourself as an important person and asking them not to consume too much of your time because you have other things to do. Our students do it differently, by the way. When they say, hello, how are you? No, I'm fine, thank you very much, but man, I'm tired. All our young people are tired. They are saying, I'm having such a great life that I don't get time to sleep. Do not be afraid to compliment or acknowledge other people. It is a way of unlocking human potential. I want to start ending off and talk to you a little bit about success and about significance. Now, success is defined by most people that I encounter as setting goals and then achieving those goals. Setting worthwhile goals and achieving those goals. By the way, it is really important to have worthwhile goals, and these worthwhile goals are those things that make you excited to get out of bed in the morning and to look forward to today and tomorrow and to next week. So motivation is sustained in what we do in pursuit of what we consider to be worthwhile goals. But you will get good at achieving goals. So the question is, what is beyond all of these goals? So you set the goal, you achieve it. You set the goal, you achieve it. So what lies on the other side? On the other side of achieving goals is living a significant life. So what does that mean? What is a significant life? For me, it is when one of your major goals is to help other people to achieve their goals, and where it is not only about your own goals. But you know, for some people, TEAM is the acronym for today, every day, always me. Instead of together everyone achieves more. So we really, and we are all in the position, and perhaps this is why I stayed at the university for 35 years. And I didn't realize it when I started my career, and when I look back at these 110 masters and PhD students that I've supervised, they are like monuments in my life. Without knowing, I was making a difference in their lives. I only realize this now, after many years, that that made my career significant. Not the publications, not the patents, not the books. Those people who I could help qualify and have a better life. And 8 of them are professors around the world today. So that's significance. Then I want to start talking to you lastly about what I reckon we need in the world today. So we need success, we need significance, but we also need to bring back civilization. The world is not such a civilized place at the moment. And the question is, how do we bring civilization back into this world? How do we, at CPUT, at UCT, Stellenbosch University, and the other universities, what is our role in bringing back civilization? And I summarize this in one word. And that word is respect. Respect for yourself, respect for other people, and respect for this planet that we share. Why respect? Why is respect so important? Because respect creates the possibility for us to co-inhabit this planet. It says you can have a different color skin, you can have a different language, you can have a different culture. That is like 150% okay. Because if there is one thing that is for sure, it is that we are doing time together. And it's up to us to make that time that we do together pleasant or unpleasant. That's within our grasp. So with those few words, I want to thank you again for having me here this evening. Continue what you do well. Use ChatGPT. It's like an encyclopedia. That's the best I can describe it. It's like an interactive encyclopedia. It does not bring wisdom. This is why you are in front of the class or facilitating teaching and learning. You are there to add wisdom. It's a fantastic tool to create information instantaneously and then to have a discussion so you can actually tap into the higher cognitive levels. If you understand Bloom's taxonomy, it's not only about what you learn and the knowledge that you can give back, but also the synthesis, the creativity, and the higher cognitive levels. So I wish all of you great success. Again, my congratulations. May you continue to set goals and achieve them, and may you continue to grow and become more significant as you help other people to achieve their goals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Professor Klute, thank you very much. I'm sure, so now, yeah, I've had to do my own reflection, and I'm sure Prof. Klute also got us thinking about our own life.